Hello and welcome to Legacy Her Way. Are you a business owner like me and it is December and you're thinking, what have I done this year? What have I accomplished? What worked? What didn't work? So many of us are going through this year-end review and figuring out what worked, what didn't work. And I hope you've also already planned for 2026. I know I have worked a lot on 2026, getting ready for the new year. I still have work to do, but in the last few days, I've started focusing on what worked in 2025 and what didn't work in 2025, what went well, what didn't go well. And so if you are like me, if you're a business owner, you're probably in that same situation and figuring out, what do we continue in 2026? What do we carry over from 2025? And that is something that I think where a lot of us are focused on right now. So Legacy Her Way is a podcast for women where we talk about real life and real strategies in ways that we as women are building legacies. And some of us are building legacies through businesses. Some of us are building legacies through family. Some of it through faith. And those are the things, those are stories, those are the strategies that we share in this podcast. And as you know, we launched this year. So 2025 was our year to launch Legacy Her Way. So that is something that I'm very excited about. I think it is one of the things that went well this year because it's been a great venture. I have loved listening to and interviewing the women we've had on the podcast. I mean, it has been some amazing women who we've interviewed that you've got to listen to, that you've got to hear their stories. You've got to hear how they pivoted, how they have balanced careers and family, how they have struggled and made it through some struggles, and how they're now, on the other side of those struggles and doing very well. So that has been, I think, something that's worked and done very well, in my opinion. And I'm not going to talk about the numbers behind the podcast. I will encourage you, it helps our numbers if you subscribe. So if you will please subscribe to this podcast, if you're getting value out of the podcast, if you enjoy hearing the women's stories, if you enjoy these solo episodes or not, if you would please just subscribe and then you comment. You can leave comments as well. And that just helps us grow the podcast. But it also helps me know that you're out there listening, that you're enjoying what you listen to, that what you're hearing, and that you want to hear more. And so I am excited to continue Legacy Her Way into the new year. We will be taking a short break during the holidays, but we'll be back in January with season 3. I was told, or I'd heard before I even launched the podcast, I had heard that you don't do a podcast if you can't do at least 10 episodes. If you can't sit down and write out the first 10 episodes of a podcast, don't even bother. And I took that to heart and I wrote out the first season and it took off. And so I'm very excited the podcast launched and that it is doing well, that you are listening and that you're learning from some amazing, amazing women. I mean, I hope you go back while we're taking a break. You'll go back and listen to some of the podcasts with some of the women. And I hope that in this season of gift giving that you'll go to their stores, you'll buy their books, you will buy their products, things that, and their services. So I do hope that you will support these women that have been on the podcast. That's one of the reasons the podcast was launched, is to support other women in business. So when I'm looking back on 2025, the podcast was a great launch. It was a great thing that happened. And it is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, where we empower your vision and secure your future through estate planning and trademarks. And so this has been a great addition to the firm, a great addition to my workload. What didn't work well with the podcast is really on my end, it's a lot of work. It was a lot more work than I anticipated it being, just honestly. And when people talk to me about doing podcasts, I'm like, it's more work than you think. And I've had some great help. I don't know if you've noticed that the editor, the video audio editing, is done by the guy in the chair productions. And so that has been a tremendous help. That is something I don't do, but I have been, for the most part, I've done all the interviews, doing the prep work, and doing the solo episodes. And that's where I have struggled, is the solo episodes, because it is just more time out of my day or more out of my week. And so that has been the thing that I would say has been the most difficult part of the podcast for me, just that time element. But the solo episodes like this one, figuring out what to say, what to talk about, it's just been the most difficult. And kind of sometimes I'm doing it very last minute, which I hate doing that to my editor, but some of it just has been last minute. In fact, the one I'm recording right now I'm recording it at 8:30 on Thursday, December 11th, and it's going to be published on December 12th. So yeah, when I say last minute, it's last minute. But that is one of the things that has been a struggle this year, and probably one of the things that didn't work well was my solo episodes for the podcast. Now, for the firm, I've had a lot of great successes with the firm. We have launched a new process, a new way of working with clients. And I've really zeroed in on estate planning is about people. We don't start with papers. And for so many years, I've been practicing law for 24 years. For so many years, I thought about estate planning as a will, a trust, a power of attorney. But the more time I spend with people and the more I think about what we're doing and the process, is we really focus on and start with people. So estate planning is about people. It's not about papers. And so you start with people. And that's something that this year I have really shifted in my mindset, where I really want to focus on. This is about people. We start with you. We start with who you love. We start with what's important to you, but most importantly, who's important to you. And then there's a strategy that comes after that as to how we prepare your estate planning documents. So that has been something that's worked for me this year, is I've made that mindset shift where I'm looking at people, primarily people. One of the things that did not work well this year is I haven't been great about, I'm trying out different systems. I'm trying out different systems and processes in the business to see what is working, what isn't working. How do we systematize some of the processes? How do we take some work off of me and Lori, my assistant, and other staff? How do we take some of the workload off them and maybe put it on a system or technology, a software? And some of the ideas I've had were great. Some fell flat. And when they fell flat, they cost us time, they cost money, they caused me frustration. And so some of those haven't worked well. And one of the things that did not work well for me, and it's totally my fault, is not writing down some of the things. Like, I would say, we're going to do this, and I wouldn't write it down, and I would forget that I said we were going to do this. Or I would forget that I said we weren't going to do that. And so that has been something, going into 2026, I have to really be intentional about writing out everything. I'm actually working on a new set of systems and processes, written protocol, written flow, workflow, from the time someone calls our office to the time they sign their documents. And I'm talking about every single detail. So that is something that I'm trying to get in place so that it takes my brain out of the equation. I don't have to think about, did I do this, or did I put this in place? Did I not put that in place? Have we pivoted and done something differently? So those are some things I'm working on right now so that I don't have that same problem in 2026 that I had in 2025 of saying, we're going to do this. and then I forget that I said we're going to do that, or we're not going to do this, and then I forget that we said we're not going to do that. One of the things that completely fell flat this year is that I decided that I was going to institute a new policy for consultation fees. And that was a disaster, a complete disaster. And so we went back to the old way of doing consultation fees. So that did not work at all. I mean, it was bad. It was seriously bad. And so kudos to Lori for telling me, Tanya, this isn't working. This is why you're not getting consultations. And so we pivoted and went back to the old way of doing the consultation fees because we weren't getting consultations. So that's something as you're taking your year in review, and sometimes you need to do this every month or every quarter, at least every quarter really. But when you're seeing something that's not working in the business, you have to stop and go, why is this not working? Why am I not getting consultations? What changed? What shifted? But obviously at the end of the year, you want to take stock of what did not work and why didn't it work, so you don't take that into the new year and have a system that's not working. So we have gone back to the old way of that. Things are working great on that end again. But that is just an example of something that didn't work. And that was totally my fault. That was my idea. I got frustrated one day because, after a series of events, I was like, fine, we're done doing it this way. We're going to do this new way. The new way didn't work, so we went back to the old way. As I'm thinking back on some things that did not work, I have to think a little bit more about that. We did shift to a new system mid-year, which, that was a lot to go through. But I think ultimately it will be good. There's still growing pains with it. We're still learning some things that the new system doesn't work as well as the old system, as far as what's called the CRM, or client management system, where all of our client information is stored. So that has been a change that was good, but also there's been some drawbacks to it. It's not as wonderful as in certain aspects as the old system, but I think overall it's much better for the firm, much better for the staff, because it takes a lot more off their plate. So that's worked, but it's also been difficult. So think through some of the things from this past year that in your business, in your life. And so in my life, what hasn't worked? I did not exercise like I planned to. If you followed my journey on Facebook, preparing for the Race for Justice 5K, I documented me getting ready to run a 5K. Well, I had hoped that would get me back into running, get me back into exercising again. What I realized while I was training for it, I did not like running anymore. I used to love running, but this time I was like, I'm not really a fan of running anymore. But I also did not keep exercising. So that was a fail on my part. So that did not work well for me. But that's something going into 2026. I'm making health a priority. As I'm recording this, I'm just like a few weeks away from my 50th birthday. And so thinking about turning 50, I'm thinking about I need to prioritize my health. I need to make a priority of that, because I see people, women in particular, in their 60s and 70s and 80s, and I want to be one of those women in my 60s and 70s and 80s that's healthy, that is able to do things, to walk around without trouble, to not be in constant pain. And so it takes me getting started now to, I should have done it years ago, but it really starting now to get into that shape. And also for mental health, I have read and I've heard podcasts about how exercise really helps your mental health. It makes you smarter, makes your brain work differently. And so that's another thing, because I've got so much going on with the firm, with podcast, family, other ventures, that I need to have all the brain power I can get. And so that just has to be a priority. Exercise, but also nutrition. When you have a busy life, it's so easy to just grab something quick. Get stuff that's easy and quick to cook, because cooking takes time, cleaning up takes time, And it's just so much easier sometimes when it's just grabbing it. And so that's something I have to be more intentional about going into 2026. Actually, I'm thinking about, health going into my 50s, which I turned 50 in just a few weeks. And so that's something I really want to make a priority in my 50th year that I haven't prioritized before. Also need to prioritize more spending time with family, as that has lapsed a good bit this past year. As you're growing a business, it takes a lot of time. And when you're the business owner, everything falls on you. If somebody's out sick, it's all on you. Making sure things are done, making sure, because I also have to do the business side, I have to do the legal side. And so it's a lot. And so I haven't spent as much time with my husband as I should have and wanted to this year. So hopefully in 2026, I'll have more time to do that, as we're getting some more systems and processes in place at the firm, which will take a little bit more off of my plate so that I can do things there. But also, I'm launching some other initiatives. So yeah, I'm one of those who has to stay busy all the time. And so even though I'm taking some things off my plate, I'm putting more things on it as I'm launching a few other initiatives. So those are just a few things that have worked well this year, have not worked well this year. I hope that as we're going into this but we are in the middle of the month, of the last month of the year, that is, if you are, whether you're a business owner or you're a stay-at-home mom or you're retired, what did you do this year? Just think about what was good about this year, what wasn't good about this year, because as this podcast is about legacy. You can't improve upon your legacy if you don't take stock of where you have been. So if 2025, and there were parts of 2025, like I am glad that 2025 is ending. There were some terrible parts. We had a loss in our family, as some of you know. October is one of those months, the end of October, beginning of November, just good riddance. But look back at 2025 and see in your life, in your personal life, your family life, your career or retirement, wherever you're at in life, what worked, what didn't. Celebrate the wins. Take some time to go, woohoo. Maybe like one of our podcast guests was Kate, who launched a book this year, her first ever book. She published a book. So she can celebrate at the end of the year. It's like, finally, her goal of publishing a book has been realized, and that happened in 2025. So that's a huge win and a huge cause for celebration. Take some time to go, yeah, I did that. That's pretty cool. Just like for me, I launched a podcast in 2025. That's pretty cool. Congratulations to me. High five me. And so think through some of your wins this year and really take some time to celebrate those wins and go, oh yeah, I accomplished that. And that's something that's a legacy for you. That's something that will carry on past you. This podcast will carry on. Kate's book will carry on past her. And so those are some things that you can celebrate your wins. And you should, because they're quite an accomplishment. And sometimes I'm very guilty of this, that I'll have something great and wonderful happen. And I just, I'm excited a day or two and then it's off to the next thing. I need to learn to slow down and really be excited about my wins and congratulate myself, high five myself, give myself some celebration time for those wins. And I think you should too. Take some time to celebrate those wins, but then look back at the things that didn't work well and go, you know what? That was a lesson learned. Won't do that again. I'll do something better next time. I'll be better next time. What can you learn from that experience? And then do better. And again, that is also part of your legacy. When you're able to look back and go, that was not good. You can teach the next generation not to do that. You can teach others not to do that. And then you can carry on a legacy of recognizing where you have fallen short, making the changes, and doing better. Thank you for listening to Legacy Her Way. I hope that this podcast has been good. I hope that you'll take stock of your 2025 as we're getting ready to head in 2026. It's your legacy. 2025 is part of your life, is part of your legacy, good or bad. but you can certainly take the bad and turn it into good. Thank you for listening. Please like this episode, the podcast, subscribe to the podcast so that other people can find it, and keep living legacy your way. Bye.